Hey, Internet! Flat broke? Well, here in the United States, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, as of July 2020, 10% of all people are unemployed. And that's really hard to see why, since everything is famously going so well and properly managed in the United States right now. Long story short, money's tight for just about everybody, and there's a lot of pay-what-you-want goodies, demo delights, and Kickstarters on the corners of the internet. So let's not waste any time and find some free goodies for you to play right now, in order for you to waste some time. On a little side note, I'm glad everybody watched the Indie Games Like Zelda video and seemed to enjoy it. I'll have to do another one a bit later, but I'm sure people don't want to constantly hear about indie games like Zelda all the time. It can be a bit oversaturated. So here's a Breath of the Wild-esque Kickstarter indie game that I found with a demo. The Kind Camomille has nothing to do with healthy tea, but everything to do with the theme of kindness. An interesting mechanic right at the beginning is that it gives you the option of having a checklist of things to do, or just going ahead and doing things without instant gratification. Oh, you'll still have things to do and little side quests here and there, but it's going with the idea that kindness is its own reward, and you don't have a big checklist of things that you can do. Oh, you might get an item as a reward from a character, but that item can be used to help out another character. That's just another chance for you to do a good deed as opposed to an in-game trophy. It's a unique theme that invites you to put it into that context without going into a video game world and getting an endless part-time job checklist of stuff that you can do. The Breath of the Wild similarities are obvious here. It's set in a big world where you wander around and explore, finding colorful characters on the way, and it has other quests and islands around you, and you can hang glide to them with ease. Like I mentioned, the demo is set for the game and it's in alpha, meaning there won't be a whole lot to the game right now, but I can see a lot of potential in finding different characters and having a big, chill island to explore at your leisure. Totally worth a glide. The Game Maker's Toolkit Game Jam from last July produced a lot of really stellar freeware games with a theme of out of control. There's an enormous amount of freeware games for your delights, but for right now, let's talk Tricky Keys. It takes place on a classic Windows interface where a virus is partially controlling your character. You have to massacre your way to the end, but the trick is that the virus could lock out going left or spam the jump button constantly. You'll have to figure out how to wall jump or even just maneuver your way through with those limitations. There are 10 credited people who helped make the game, and considering it took 48 hours to do, it's an impressive effort. The presentation is fun and feels fresh, although be warned, this one will absolutely humble you with its hefty difficulty. Full disclosure, it got so tough that I couldn't end up beating the very last level of the game. And admittedly, part of that are the somewhat unresponsive controls. There's only so much polish you could do with a 48-hour time limit, but regardless of that, there's a lot of really clever level design going on with this game. It's a fun and inventive pay-what-you-want game, but brutally punishing. I'm sure I've got a few JRPG fans on my channel, and if you have about an hour to kill, I'd say give Adiasis a try. It's got a great look and style, evoking a bit of Persona with mechanics that would feel right at home with the Paper Mario series. You can dodge attacks by pressing your respective team members' buttons at the right time, and the moves and abilities you have, although minimal, do allow for some strategy and creativity. The writing here might not be quite as memorable as an Earthbound or an Undertale, because, we're expecting this from freeware and pay-what-you-want games, but it did merit the occasional chuckle. Considering it was all done by one developer, it's an impressive little JRPG. I'd love to see them make a longer adventure based on this in the future. I have been looking for a great excuse to talk about this game ever since I played a demo of it at E3.
Oh, hi Mark.
And the developers at Resonator handed me the perfect excuse with their public playable alpha after the Steam Summer Games Festival that you can download right now. Anew, The Distant Light is a Kickstarter game that's been in development for about 3 years, and as evidenced from its alpha build and its art style, it's a damn impressive effort so far. It's a Metroidvania sporting a twin-stick control scheme, aiming your gun with one stick and moving around with the other. The demo features a solid level of variety where you'll shoot aliens and obstacles in your way, but before you know it, you're battling them in a giant controlled mech and later on a dune buggy level, and then going right into an underwater level. There's no telling how well paced the final game will be, but there's a lot of surprises and things to do here right out of the get-go. It's all done with a sort of crude mix of art styles that gives the game a signature off-putting atmosphere, with music that's almost offensively on point. The soundtrack comes from Wilbert Rodgett, who's had experience with music from a number of high-profile games, including Star Wars: The Old Republic, and he elevates what's happening with that epic, pulpy feeling of optimism and curiosity that comes from the optimistic science fiction that they're drawing inspiration from. well, admittedly with the context of the story, partially optimistic. Anew was one of my favorite games that I got to play at that E3, and I'm just as excited for it now as I was back then. Super hyped for its final release. Sealed Bite is the winner of 2019 GitHub's Game of Game Jam of over 200 entries, and after playing it's easy to see why it took home the prize. It's a game that in the beginning you're bitten by a werewolf and you're on a quest to help stop the transformation. The twist here being is that your transforming makes you jump higher and cling to walls, getting new abilities. It's been updated since its original submission, features solid platforming that takes a little bit less than an hour to beat, and even has a few twists along the way. The end boss might have you pulling your hair out, and admittedly the music gets a little bit repetitive, but otherwise it's a really solid mini platformer. Speaking of mini, this next one's played on a Game Boy within a game. That's a bit of a strange gimmick that sadly makes the individual games only part of the screen, but it's worth it to play Starcatchers. Going with the vector theme, the game controls two people's line of sight to bring a star that moves with a different line's eye contact. It's a bizarre game for sure where you have to get used to the controls, but it's a fun and zany little puzzle game. In a strange way, it's actually kind of a sweet and wholesome game as well. Your stars go into a heart, bringing two random people together. Although with how tough the control scheme is, in context it's a first date that's worthy to be a Monty Python sketch, with how weird and bonkers the eye contact is between the two of them. Also, there's been a little update recently. I contacted the developer about the full screen issue, and he went ahead and updated the game last week to be completely full screen from my email. I didn't expect that to happen, so go ahead and play it in full screen. You're welcome. This next one is for a Kickstarter demo that already ended its campaign successfully, that I found pretty interesting to talk about even after its crowdfunding run, so Beasts of Maravilla Island. It's an exploration photography game set in a paradise that not everybody fully believes exists. It's your mission to take as many pictures of the exotic locale as possible to prove to the rest of the world that the mythical island is in fact real, so presumably it can become a tourist trap and later harvested to make McDonald's toys. Pokemon Snap, Breath of the Wild's photography, and even BBC's Planet Earth are cited as key inspirations, where it's all about being non-violent towards your subjects. In the demo, the only interactions you have are lightly whistling to draw attention, moving around to get a good angle, climbing different vines, and of course, getting the shot. While Pokemon Snap was all about being on a track and hopefully getting the right angle for your run, Maravilla lets you go at your own pace, and again, no throwing things at your subjects. The game is aiming to be free on full release, as well as being very far into its development as of now. Right now, as you can see in this footage, it's a bit rough around the edges. I almost got stuck climbing one of the vines here, but again, it's a work in progress and a Kickstarter demo. Photography games seem few and far between, as evidenced by people's enthusiasm over Pokemon Snap's latest debut, so a charming game like this is welcome, and I'm eager to see where it goes. But say you don't want the unusual control of tricky keys, but wanted something that was even weirder in terms of its controls, presentation, and how it makes you rage? Peaks of Yore might catch your interest. It's a demo for a much larger game, where you're a hobbyist mountain climber looking to scale various peaks in the late 19th century. Your mouse buttons control each hand, and you can swing left or right to build your momentum in order to reach the next ledge. You can hike yourself up and hold down the mouse buttons in order to keep your grip. And you will be gripping your mouse for dear life as you slowly nudge your way from ledge to ledge, at times fending off against plants hiding ledges or birds wanting to throw you off. It's a weird one for sure with its old-timey look and style, and some will understandably not take to its awkward control scheme. It's in a rough state, but it is an early demo, and that feeling of accomplishment can rival something like getting over it, and how satisfying it is to overcome it and become king of the world. Strange Keyworld is definitely a highlight here. It's a keyboard-based platformer, where the keys of the keyboard are themselves the platforms. Some of the platforms vanish when you press down on them, and very much like tricky keys, you have to figure out how to get through. It's clever as hell, and really has you rethinking as you jump on how to make it through. It's also a fairly challenging game to play through, but the difficulty curve is just right. It's not nearly as tricky and difficult as tricky keys can be. Although it has a minimal black and white style, it features hints of humor and even a few loving nods to platformers from the past. Recommending this one's a no-brainer. Download it and play it right away. It's damn excellent. Although not quite as excellent as the developer's review of The Witness, which according to Google Translate says, huge puzzle with just one input, it's a terrible game, after playing I got a little drunk, it's my first time getting drunk in a game, I've heard that you get drunk in games, but after that you really get drunk. I feel sick and I vomit if I keep playing. Like I said, Strange Keyworld is excellent, but not nearly as excellent as that review. I feel I have to apologize for the next game that I've decided to feature on this show. This game is cute. Very cute. It's cute overload. It's offensively, inhumanely, almost ungodly adorable in every way, shape, or form. This game is so cute you will probably find it intercut with a bunch of dog and cat videos on YouTube. That's how cute this game is. PHOGS has you playing as two puppy heads attached to each other in a sort of cat-dog-esque body, where each thumbstick controls their own heads. It's structured a bit like a 3D platformer a la Super Mario 3D World, where you solve puzzles using the unique control scheme. Just don't spend too much time thinking about how they can move, survive, and operate with such a body in the real world. UK-based developers Bitloom Games clearly had a lot of inspiration for the design, as the short demo features a lot of variety, with ball rolling, cattle herding, and even a level paying tribute to Taito's ice-cold beer. If you're worrying about the controls being too weird and annoying, don't. Absolutely don't. The learning curve wasn't too difficult, and the challenge of the game wasn't leaning on frustration of moving the character around. You can even play this game co-op, which I can see making for some really hilarious live streams in the future for the game. PHOGS is a game that I'm very much excited about, and while the full game is expected to be released later this year, the demo is 100% off right now. You might as well give it a try now, since I can see the game being illegal in 23 states for being almost criminally charming. There you have it, 10 free games to hold you over until our economy gets into something of a recognizable state. Feel free to check out other freeware spotlights on this channel, and check out my latest longer episode on indie games like Zelda if you haven't already. Feel free to subscribe, hit the bell, and do all that fun stuff on YouTube that's still a thing. Thank you so much for watching, take care.